Welcome to Creative Piecemeal. I'm Tammy Takaishi, a board-certified music therapist. Join me each week as a new guest from across the fine and creative arts spheres shares struggles, triumphs, laughs, words of wisdom, and more in authentic, thought-provoking, and inspiring interviews. Hello and welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast. Today I'm here with Maia Chamberlain, and she is a fencer who qualified for the Olympics. She's world-renowned, and she is part of the very prestigious Princeton fencing team, of which you recently graduated. Is that right?
I guess you can say that. Class of 2022, so it's been a few years now.
I'm excited to have you on. I mostly have people from creative arts spaces, but I love now having a person who's in the athletics because that is such a creative thing, but on a more physical level. So I was curious, what got you into fencing, and why do you fence with the specific sword of choice?
First off, thank you for having me. It's very special to be here. And yeah, I was drawn to fencing because of its creativity. So long story short, I got into fencing because of Star Wars, Pirates of the Caribbean, things that I see on TV. They looked really cool. All the fighting scenes looked fantastic. So I just wanted to do that. I was already fighting my friends or whoever came into the house with a little lightsaber. So it was a pretty natural transition to get into fencing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it stuck because of the creative aspect. I did other sports like swimming, track, biking, basketball, all sorts of sports. But fencing stuck because it was really like a puzzle where you had to solve each individual opponent's style, use your strengths against theirs, essentially. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I chose saber out of the three weapons. There's saber, foil, and epee. And I chose saber because that is the fastest paced weapon out of the three. The other two, you have to poke to score the touch. There's a button at the end of the tip of the blade, whereas saber, the entire blade is the weapon where if any part of the blade touches the opponent's target area, you would get the point. So there's more slashing rather than stabbing motions, and that's what you see on TV. People slash at each other in Star Wars or in Pirates of the Caribbean or Parent Trap. And I liked that fast-paced, dramatic motion, and I didn't have the patience for the other ones. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
You qualified for the Paris Olympics. What was that like, qualifying for something so high level?
It's definitely a fantastic feeling knowing that you're going to Paris for the Olympics. I felt relieved because it was something I took time off to try to qualify for. I really tried to go for the Olympics in Tokyo in 2020. So I took some time off of school for that. And that gave me some experience to know what to expect for the Paris cycle. Just knowing that all the work I put in, I was able to achieve the goal that I set out to. It was a really relieved and fantastic feeling.
Nice. I always imagine that as an athlete, you probably have like music to get you pumped up when you're working out, when you're practicing. What are some things that you're listening to on rotation lately?
Oh, so my pre-competition playlist or competition playlist is actually anime opening musics at the moment. I like how I just can't understand the lyrics. It's really the high-paced energy that the music has that gets me going. Outside of that, because I don't want to overplay, I just play whatever I've been into in the moment, and the genres really switch over time. But the anime playlist is consistent while I'm competing. I want to be like the main character in one of those actiony shows.
Nice. What is something you would like a tip that you would give for someone who might want to start fencing? Like whether it's a young person, like a kid or a teenager, like any age, what's one well-rounded tip that you would give?
First of all, it's a super accessible sport in terms of ability. Fencing, I think, has some of the most diverse body types I've seen, and because fencing is so creative, there's many ways to skin a cat, you can say. So people have very different styles, and that works. So that's very exciting, and every different age ranges is a thing as well. I think at the Olympics there were people who were in their 40s and people who were 14, or so it was just a huge range. It's very different from other sports like swimming in that way, or gymnastics. A tip would probably be to welcome mistakes. I would say there's a relatively high barrier to entry just because a fencing stance is not natural. It's very one-sided. So it does take a little bit of time to get used to the movement. But once you get there, once you get to a certain point, it's all mental. So that's the exciting part. Kind of like say skateboarding. It's kind of hard to get used to the beginning mechanics, but once you get to a certain point, you can learn lots of cool tricks. So yeah, just stick with it, have fun because you're hitting people with swords.
You mentioned skateboarding. Do you do other sports just for fun to keep yourself loose?
Yes. I love trying things. I will always try anything once at least. Lately, I just been signing up to random classes. So in New York, what people do pretty frequently is like go to dance classes, rock climbing. I'm gonna do yoga after this. Yeah, I love trying new things. This isn't really dancing related, but yeah, being creative, drawing, doing pottery, just being active, using your hands. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What does a typical competition day look like for you?
It's very different compared for domestic events compared to international. So it's all technical with the formatting, but usually for a domestic event, I would show up the day before. Say, for example, there was a competition, the Junior Olympics in North Carolina this past weekend, and try to do equipment check at the venue. It's usually a convention center, and sleep, wake up at 6 a.m. because the event usually starts at 8 a.m. Compete, be done around 2 to 4, and then fly home that night. So it's very much an in and out 24-hour trip. For international event, it's way more involved. So usually you're not in the Pan American region. You would have to go to Europe or Africa or Asia to compete. And so I would normally leave around Tuesday, get there Wednesday for like a day to adjust, and either compete Thursday or Friday. And the thing is, it's a 2 day long competition. And sometimes there's multiple events. There's like a team event and an individual event. So you might fence one day or you could fence 3 days. So it's just a lot more involved. I would say leave on Tuesday, be done on Sunday, and then come back on Monday. So it'd be like a whole week long thing.
Mm. It sounds very intense and like you don't necessarily get a chance to sightsee or anything.
Yeah, it's very much like a business trip, but for the I love traveling and getting to know the culture of wherever I'm at. Try the food. I'm very big into trying new foods, and I'm the team foodie.
Mhm.
Uh, but I really did try to make a point to spend an extra day or two during the Olympic qualifying season because it was just such an easy time to get burnt out, and having an extra day or two at these places just to sightsee was a way to have a break, a little pause from the stress of qualifying. Qualification for fencing might be a little more different than other sports because usually there's one defining moment, one qualifier that'll determine if you make it or not, or a round of qualifications. Like in one tournament. But for fencing, qualification is determined based off a whole season. So from October to March, basically, you're going to all these competitions once or twice or even 3 times a month. It's very much a grind, and you need to take those breaks from time to time.
Definitely important to have self-care and, especially being an athlete, managing and balancing everything so you don't have injuries, etc. What are some things that you like to you'd mentioned pottery and painting. Like, are those things you do regularly to just sort of unwind, I guess?
Yes, definitely. It's very important to not spend all of your time thinking about fencing. I feel like if, or just one thing in particular, because say if a few events don't go well, then you'll just go down a downward spiral. Having some creative outlet to practice other skills or just have fun, even if you're bad at it, is super healthy. Yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot.
Of course, now that you've done it for many years, do you ever find it kind of weird watching a fencing or sword fighting scene in movies? Like, do you ever analyze it and be like, oh, they did that wrong, or they did that really well, or something like that?
Yeah, you can tell who's actually been trained or not. I haven't seen a sword fight scene in a minute, but I do know that a few like actors do go to fencing gyms for practice and have some basic technique. Like I think there's this club in LA that get a few actors from time to time, like Jenna Ortega from Wednesday Addams, I think had a fighting scene. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard that my friend's coach gave her a few lessons for that. I think they break a lot of rules to make things look more entertaining. Like normally in a fencing strip, you can only go forwards and backwards. People usually break that by going side to side, breaking things, trying to go for someone's ankles when it's not the target area, things like that.
I don't know if you've ever seen The Princess Bride, but there's like this epic fencing scene in that movie.
Oh, yeah. It's very proper. I think people are definitely just going for the kill at that point. So it's not really sport fencing, more like sword fighting. But the on guard position looks pretty good, in my opinion. Love the movie.
Yeah, it's a good one. What are some of your goals for this new year that you'd be willing to share?
This is my first time kind of experiencing a low period since I've spent time trying to qualify for the Olympics like 2 years leading into it. This is my first time competing professionally 4 years ahead of the next Olympics. So it's an interesting timing. Before it was all go, 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 but now there's actually some time to be more strategic because you don't want to peak now for these Olympic sports, say NBA or baseball. You don't want, I mean, there's important or tennis, there's important matches that get views all the time. But for fencing or sports light fencing, people really only see it during the Olympics. So and it's the most important competition for us. So it's important to feel and be our best then in order to hopefully medal at the next Olympics. I want to really build a strong foundation for this season. This season is on the slower side. I've been training less, but I'm still number one in the country at the moment, which is fantastic. So I don't have to worry about qualifying for this year's world team. So I'm going to go to world championships. And I just want to have this year where I can feel comfortable being in that top position. Before it was a struggle to make the team. Now I want to excel within the team, if that makes sense.
Nice, yeah. And congratulations for being number one presently. That must feel really good.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely not a bad feeling. I also, as another goal, would like to medal more in the international scene. I think I've definitely established dominance in the domestic scene, and definitely like I'm of course well known in the international scene, but I want to be more consistent there.
Excellent. Sounds like some really good goals.
Thank you, thank you.
What is one of your favorite things about fencing in general?
So definitely that creativity. I also really enjoy rock climbing. It's like a puzzle to solve, but fencing's, I feel like, more high paced because someone's out to get you as well. The rocks aren't out to get you. So I love that battle really with other opponents. Kind of like when I was younger, just really enjoyed that movement. It's very fun to play with swords, you know.
Yeah.
So it's great that I can professionally do what I've always liked when I was younger.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you really have a love for it and just a love for even just the kinesthesiology of how it is, you know?
It's very satisfying when you have a plan and you execute it really well. Like when you practice something long enough, you can feel what's right and wrong, and that feeling of doing it right and doing it smoothly is extremely satisfying. And it's not just found in fencing, but that was what I found to that was the skill that I found that where I can feel that the most.
Excellent. Obviously, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. What was something that was challenging for you in the fencing world that you eventually overcame?
Ooh, I would say it's definitely a mental sport. Like I said earlier, once you get to a certain level, everyone has the same tool set. It's just how do you use it? It was very hard to get to the right headspace, and there's definitely a jump from the junior to the senior level. So using mental tricks to get a one up, or being able to slow down a bout because things are super fast in Saber, being able to slow down the bout so you can re-strategize. I would say that's the most difficult thing. If you lose a few touches in Saber, a bout goes to 15 points, a direct elimination bout. So you can lose 5 points in a row very easily. So how do you not let momentum slip, or how do you keep building off momentum if you're getting a bunch of points in a row? Like, how do you keep that going? The mental aspect is definitely the most challenging part.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine for anything that's such high level and with such precision. I'm just curious, do you have a favorite move that just feels so good that you love to do all the time? Whether or not it fits in the plan of what you like, what you're doing for that specific fight.
Yeah, definitely. In general, the attack is the most successful statistically action for you to do in Saber. And basically, attack is if someone is going forward and your opponent's going backwards and you hit each other at the same time, the person going forward will get the point. Because if you hit each other at the same time, someone has to win that point. Both people can't get the point. So the attacker always has the right of way. But what I like to do is I like to parry. It's kind of like what you see in the media. That's why I got into it in the first place. All these blocks. So the way to score that point is if someone is attacking you, you have to grab their blade and parry them. And then if you hit each other at the same time, the person who parried gets the point. So I love parries. They are more flashy. They make cool sounds. Sometimes there are sparks. So it's just much more entertaining. And that's why I got into it for that kind of fun movement. And I'm really well known in the international fencing community for my parries. I think some YouTuber nicknamed me Parry Queen or something like that, um, which stuck in the fencing community because it's so small. And what I do really well is get counter parries. So like if you imagine someone blocks you and then they immediately try to hit you and then you block them. So that's a counter parry. So I do like 4 to 5 counter parries. So it'll be like the tempo would sound like bing, 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 bing. Like it's really fast. And it's super fun to watch. So it could be found in highlight reels and things like that. very low percentage win points, but they're the most fun, and that's what I'm known for.
Cool. Well, excellent. One last question before I let you go. What is one of your favorite meals on a competition day?
Pasta. It's really that would be more for the night before. It's important to have a big meal, usually to carb up the before the day of the competition. The competition days last super long, so like say for a domestic event, you start at 6 and at 3, 4 p.m. So it's a long day, and you can't really stomach big meals in between matches. So I would go in with a bagel and protein shakes, just not a lot. So it's really important to eat a lot the night before. Big old pasta. Love that. If I can try to find an Italian place before my event, I'll go for it.
Excellent. Yeah, can't go wrong with pasta.
Right? It's hard to mess up.
Well, Maia Chamberlain, thank you so much for joining. World-renowned fencer. I look forward to having you back on the show to discuss more awesomeness about fencing, and all the best in your upcoming competitions.
Thank you so much, Tammy. It was lovely meeting you.
Thanks for listening to Creative Piecemeal. We hope today's episode left you feeling inspired. This podcast is independently created and produced by the host, Tammy Takaishi. More details about today's guest can be found in the show notes, along with links to the podcast's socials, merch store, and ways to support arts organizations AHA Broadway and New Normal Rep, both near and dear to Tammy's heart. Don't forget to visit creativepiecemeal.com, the official podcast website, where you can leave fan mail, write a review, explore Tammy's blog, and discover the growing collection of episodes. Special thanks to our audio engineer, Alex Repetti. Additional narration by Dante Jace. Let's keep celebrating creativity in all its forms.